Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, August 2nd. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 589 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are recapping day number 9 of New York Jets training camp. I was out at One Jets Drive in Florham Park this afternoon, or I should say this morning. So I have all of my in-person takeaways from today's training camp practice. It was the green and white scrimmage, so a lot to break down, as we always do. We'll take a look at what took place on the field for the New York Jets, and we'll take a look at some sound a little bit later on. Aaron Glenn met the media. Mason Taylor met the media. A.Z. Thomas, Arian Smith met the media as well. So we'll take a look at some comments from a couple of the New York Jets rookies to close out today's program. But as always, we'll begin with what took place on the field today for the New York Jets. And it, of course, was the green and white scrimmage. So a lot more of a scrimmage feel, where you had more of the drive the field 11-on-11 periods. And then towards the end, the Jets shifted into a couple red zone periods and called it a practice. And overall, your biggest takeaway today, my biggest takeaway today, and I think most Jet fans would agree with this sentiment, being there, watching it, it was a rough day for the offense. And it was a rough day from a discipline penalty perspective. The New York Jets were penalized 12 times today, 5 of those coming with the first team, and a couple of those just back-breaking penalties in some really tough spots. One of them after Justin Fields drove the team downfield, got into field goal range. There was a delay of game on the field goal unit, pushed back 5 yards from a 38-yard kick to a 43-yard kick, which ended up resulting in Nick Folk missing the kick. Just something that in a game scenario is unacceptable. That is something in a game that could be the difference between a win and a loss, where you get down, you have a good drive, you're looking at 3 points, you get backed up 5 yards, and instead of finishing it off strong from a 3 points move on perspective, you take the penalty, you miss the kick, and just a ton of other stuff. Couple false starts, couple holdings that brought back some really big runs, things that you'd rather see now in training camp than in the regular season, and that's the hope. Right. This is an offense yesterday that had one of its best days yesterday, probably their best day yesterday in the 8th practice. You fast forward a day later, and it was one of the tougher practices for this offense. A lot of it with the penalties. Every other play, it felt like there was yellow laundry on the field. The flags were flying all over the place. So something that continues to have to clean up. Glenn has talked about that a ton, of course, having the refs there, trying to get that figured out now, getting that fixed now in early August, as opposed to this happening when the season rolls around. So still some work to do from that standpoint. But in terms of just the plays and everything that I took away, as I always do when I'm in person, I kind of just go by here play by play on these episodes and give you some of my bigger takeaways. So we'll start with Fields. We'll start with the starting offense. First play of the day was a false start, right? On that same line of all the penalties. Fields then tried to get the ball to Mason Taylor. Really nice coverage by Sauce. He broke that pass up. Sauce had a couple nice plays today. Fields then had a read option. As a whole today, Justin Fields didn't have his best day from a passing perspective. And there was a couple drops in there as well. So it wasn't all on him. But one thing Fields did do well today, and one thing the Jets as a team did well today on offense, because there wasn't a lot that went right, but one thing that did go right and something that you can take away as a positive was their ability to run the ball. They had a couple really big runs today, a couple really impressive runs. Isaiah Davis had a good day. Justin Fields as well. You saw that early on. Couple read options where Fields took it and picked up some chunk yards. So that's how practice got started. Davis then had a nice 7-yard run, completely ran through Michael Carter to pick up some extra yards. They went back to Isaiah Davis, nice cut up field for about 7 yards. And then he got the ball to Garrett Wilson for on a flat, about 3 to 4 yards for a first down in the flat. So that was kind of how the first drive started there. Then got a completion to Ruckert for 7 yards. Fields was rolling out to his left, evading some pressure, made a nice play. So a couple days here where they've been able to get Ruckert a bit more involved from a passing game perspective. And then there was a Brees run for about 3 yards to pick up the first down. Nobody opened the next play, so it was a throwaway from Justin Fields. Brees then ran again for 8 yards. Like I said, a lot of consistent 6, 7, 8-yard runs today from these backs, and a couple big chunk plays as well. Fields then tried to get it to Josh Reynolds on 4th and 3, and he couldn't. It was out of reach. Sauce was pretty close as well in coverage. Tough play to make. So 4th and 3, Folk then comes on for the field goal. That's where the penalty happens. It goes from a 38-yard kick to a 43-yard kick, and they miss it. Unacceptable. Can't happen. Too many penalties. That's how that drive ended. What was a good start to practice, getting in field goal range, ended on a penalty. Fast forward to some of Tyrod's reps in the first set of team drills here in this green and white scrimmage. Similar to the way things started for Justin Fields, the first play of the second team offense, a Isaiah Davis run that went for a first down was negated by a holding. So that was taken back. Completion then to Stone Smart for about 3 yards. Tyrod then tried to get it to Isaiah Davis. Good coverage. Incomplete. So it's 3rd and 17 after the penalty and the 2 plays that didn't go anywhere. And after the incompletion, of course. And then the Jets get a pass interference from Quintez Stiggers on Brandon Smith. So that moves the chains. And then later on in this drive, Tyrod was able to get Zach Kuntz involved. That was quite the surprise. A Zach Kuntz sighting actually went for a first down. A couple other Kene Nwangu runs. The one went for 3 yards. The other one got stuffed. So then it was a 2nd down and 10. Tyrod found Brandon Smith. Nice throw. Blitz from Isaiah Oliver. Saw a couple plays today where Michael Carter had a blitz today. Isaiah Oliver had a blitz. So again, we talk about this a lot. Steve Wilkes implementing a lot of that, especially early here. Or really not early, but halfway through kind of training camp at this point already. You've seen a lot of blitzing. Good blitz pickup on the Isaiah Oliver safety blitz, corner blitz, whatever you want to call it. And then that opened up the Tyrod first down completion to Brandon Smith. Davis then had a run for about 5 yards. Another completion to Zach Kuntz, taken back, though, penalty. 2nd and 15, an incomplete pass intended for Stone Smart. Tyrod pressured, was rolling out. As a whole today, the passing offense, or the pass protection, I should say, the run blocking was very good today. Pass protection struggled a bit. And you saw that a couple times on this drive and even a couple other Fields drives where had to roll out, had to buy some time, pocket collapsed a couple times. Run blocking was definitely a lot better. 3rd and 15, another penalty. So it takes it back, and it was a really nice screenplay to Kene Nwangu. He picked up the first down, but gets called back for a penalty. It was a holding. 3rd and 25. Tyrod tried to get it to Malachi Corley. It was out of reach. So just in that first set of team drills, you saw all of those penalties. You heard all of those penalties that I just rung off. Couple of them taking away big plays. The one, of course, pushing Nick Folk back 5 yards, resulting in the missed kick. And then Adrian Martinez came in, and that drive got started with back-to-back penalties. It was a false start and then a hold. Unacceptable. Again, cannot happen. So now let's move on to some more team drills here. Fields started off his second set of team drills with a Braylon run that went nowhere. Braylon was Zaya Davis, Breece Hall were the number, obviously getting a lot of the reps today. Braylon Allen's still a bit limited coming back from that knee soreness. And with the day off tomorrow, Jets playing it a bit safe there. Then there was a false start, and then Fields was pressured, overthrew Garrett Wilson. 3rd and 15, Clemens got in on a sack. So that drive went nowhere. And it was, again, a result of run play going nowhere, which wasn't a common theme today, but a run play that didn't go anywhere on first down, and then a false start, and then a pressured throw, incomplete, 3rd and long situation, you get sacked. Penalties like that, early down plays that don't go anywhere, that's what kills drives. And you saw a lot of that today. Fields then was back out there. Penalty again on the offense. 1st and 20, Breece ran for 8 yards. There was then a Mason Taylor drop. This was the play that Michael Carter came. But a Mason Taylor drop, 3rd and 12, delay a game. And at this point, with all these penalties, Aaron Glenn actually took the first team offense out. And they brought Tyrod and the second team offense in, gave them a fresh set of downs, couple run plays in a row, got them to a 3rd and 3 situation. And Tyrod was able to get a nice deep completion to Isaiah Davis, who really flashed today, both as a receiver and on the ground. In my opinion, probably his best day so far of the summer. Nice ball about 20 yards down the sideline. And then Tyrod, then the next play, completion of Stone Smart for about 5 yards. He was pressured, but stepped up, delivered a nice ball. Stone Smart's now had a couple practices in a row where he's made some plays. And later on in that drive on a 4th and 1, touchdown, Stone Smart from Tyrod. So Stone Smart today, that was one of 2 touchdowns. And these last couple days, he's made a couple nice plays. He's been a factor. You saw that again today. So, again, we talk about this back end of this tight end room, somebody having to emerge there. Ruckert, of course, hasn't done a whole lot in 3 years. Up to this point in camp has been pretty. We all know Mason Taylor leads the way, but Stone Smart's an interesting name to keep an eye on from a receiving perspective. If he can continue to put together kind of a strong second half of camp, he's somebody to look for that maybe can emerge as another pass catcher behind Mason Taylor, because nobody in that room really has right now. So those were the drive the field portion, the scrimmage portion, essentially, of today's practice. And as you could tell, it was very messy. Lots of penalties, couple drops, not very efficient from a Fields perspective passing today. Couple nice runs, but that was about it. Now, from a red zone perspective, one of the big plays today for Justin Fields, first play, this is kind of red zone drills just outside of the red zone. They were starting at the 25-yard line. First play of these set of team drills, Fields had a rushing touchdown, 25 yards, went untouched. Then the next set right after that, it was a Breece run for 9 yards. Another Breece run on 2nd and 1 that got pushed back for a holding. So that turned into 2nd and 11, which then turned into a Will McDonald sack, beat Armand Membu. 3rd and 20, Fields looked for Tyler Johnson. Really nice coverage. Brandon Stevens all over him. Pass breakup. Folk came on. Towards the end of practice, Folk was doing like simulated field goals. They weren't actually snapping the ball. So that was definitely interesting. So the Folk field goal tries at the end of practice weren't actually tries. They were fake. They were just kind of walkthroughs, if you will. But again, you see that drive, right? Starts off with a nice Breece run, which was a common theme for today. And then 2nd and 1, there's a hold. Pushes you back 10 yards, and there's a sack. And you're in a 3rd 20 situation. That's going to kill you in a real game scenario. Tyrod then came on. A Kene Nwangu rushing touchdown got negated by a holding. So then it was a 1st and 20 situation, completion to Stone Smart for about 7 yards, put him into 2nd and 13. Tyrod looked for Arian Smith, the rookie. Looked like PI on AZ Thomas. Arian Smith had him beat a bit, and AZ Thomas kind of pushed him a bit. It looked like a PI. In a real game, the refs held the flag. There was no flag on the play, but you can make a case for pass interference. Either way, it wasn't called. So then on 3rd and 13, Tyrod was being chased by Jay Tufele, had to buy some time, rolled out of the pocket, found Stone Smart for a touchdown. So that's 2 touchdowns on the day total for Stone Smart. And those were his big plays today. So strong day from him, one of the lone offensive standouts for what otherwise, of course, was a pretty rough day offensively. So those were the sets of team drills that took place from the 25-yard line. Now, more red zone drills that started at the 10-yard line. Fields got things started. First set began with an incompletion to Josh Reynolds. That was in the back of the end zone. Kind of a slow developing play. It was kind of weird. The ball was snapped. Fields had some time. It just felt like a very slow developing methodical type of play. Fields got it to Josh Reynolds, and even the throw, it felt like, I don't know, it was just something about it. It was kind of a weird play in terms of just felt very slow and a bit sluggish. And it felt like the throw itself, Sauce had a lot of time to get in front of Reynolds and break it up. And that's exactly what he did. The next play, however, read option. There was 2 or 3 of those today that I remember vividly. The one I mentioned earlier, that Fields rushed for about 10 yards. This one, read option, another Fields rushing touchdown. So that was his 2nd of the day. More drills from the 10-yard line after the Fields rushing touchdown. Brees run play stuffed by Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams had a very strong finish to practice here. That was one of the plays that he made here towards the end. We'll get to the next one here in a second. And then on 2nd and 8 yards to go, Brees rushing touchdown. So he found the end zone. And then the final set for the first team, Quincy just came firing down the middle and actually looked like clipped Justin Fields' helmet a bit. In a real game scenario, he would have destroyed Fields, but whoever the opposing quarterback was, he came roaring through the line of scrimmage and sacked, not actually sacked, but would have sacked Justin Fields. 2nd and 20 then, Fields scrambled for about 13 yards, got it back to a 3rd and 7 situation, which of course 3rd and 7 yards away from the goal line. And then there was an incompletion to Tyler Johnson. Bad throw. Looked like a miscommunication. I think Fields was expecting Tyler Johnson to cut back to the middle. You can kind of see him talking with, it looked like Engstrand or maybe Charles. Yeah, it was Charles London, the quarterback's coach, actually. Engstrand was also in the area, but talking to him about, and you can kind of see him pointing, looked like a bit of a miscommunication between him and Tyler Johnson because he threw it well behind Tyler Johnson, and I think he expected Tyler Johnson to cut back, and he didn't. So that, of course, resulted in that drive ending there. And in practice, finished up a bit early, and Glenn mentioned in his post-practice press conference, Tyrod came on with the second team for a couple rounds of 10-yard drills starting at the 10, and they had one play. He went to Xavier Gipson in the corner of the end zone. It was incomplete. Xavier Gipson was shaken up after the play, and they called practice there. So, Glenn kind of mentioned it getting towards the end. I also just think the way things were going, Gipson, another injury. There was a couple injuries that piled up today. We'll get to those in a second. That finished off practice. So, moral of the story is, as we kind of break down everything I just said, offensively, way too many penalties, 12 penalties today, unacceptable. A couple of those defensively, obviously, you had the pass interference by Quantez Stiggers. 12 penalties, no way to put it. You also had the special teams penalty, unacceptable. Can't happen, but something that you'd rather happen now than happen in the regular season. And Glenn talked a little bit about, some of the holding penalties, those things being technique, right? The false starts, those can't happen. Those are mental, unacceptable. That's undisciplined. But when you get to what, Glenn calls the competitive penalties, which is the penalties that happen during the play, feel like from a coaching staff perspective, they want to take a look at that and, figure out a technique thing with some of these holds. But the false starts, the delay of games, those can't happen. And the holds as well. You have to limit those as much as possible. Fields, from a passing perspective today, not great. Looked like only went about 2 of 10. Couple drops, of course. From a rushing perspective, Fields was good. Had the 2 touchdowns. Brees touchdown. Isaiah Davis had some nice runs. On the ground, the Jets were fine. And that was even with a couple nice runs being negated by penalties as well. So there could have even been more big plays from this rushing offense today if it wasn't for some of the penalties that back those plays up. Offensive line perspective, rough day from a pass protection standpoint, but a very strong day from a run blocking standpoint. And those are your biggest takeaways there. Now, special teams, Nick Folk, Harrison Mevis were both out there when they did their kicking drills. Nick Folk went 4 of 5. He missed from 48, made 52. Those are some highlights from that kicking session. And it was a really poor day for Harrison Mevis. He went 2 of 5, missed from 43, 48, and 52. So rough day for him. Nick Folk definitely won the day. Feels like that's been the case. Feels like we're heading in the direction of Nick Folk being this team's kicker when the season rolls around. And just one other special teams note as well. Before practice began, they were doing kick returning drills. Gibson, Malachi Corley, Kene Nwangu, Jamal Pritchett were all back returning kickoffs. Couple injury notes. Xavier Gibson dealing with a shoulder. Josh Reynolds limped off. Glenn did not give specifics, though, on what he is dealing with. Chris Boyd, who during a set of punt return drills was really hurting right in front of the fans, dealing with a shoulder injury, actually had to get carted off. He was in a lot of pain. So hopefully nothing major there. And Jalen Simpson dealing with a hamstring. So those are the injury updates from today's practice. And that's it. Now let's get into some sound here. As Aaron Glenn met the media, Mason Taylor met the media, A.Z. Thomas, Arian Smith. So a trio of 2025 draft picks. We'll start, as always, with Aaron Glenn. Here was his thoughts on the penalties today at practice.
But there's a lot of things that we got to clean up. The one thing that I'm sure that everybody saw were the penalties. So I'm glad we had the refs out there, because that's one thing that we want to hit. We want to make sure we hit those hard. And I want them to ref it just like it was a game. And I thought they did a good job of that. And there's no excuses. All right, our players understand that, because we know penalties. They're discipline issues, and we got to make sure that we are more disciplined in that aspect on both sides of the ball. So and we will get those cleaned up. I promise you that, but there's a lot of work to do.
That's something that, like you said, got to get cleaned up. We'll clean up. And he mentioned, right, some of those technique things on those holding penalties. Hopefully you can correct that. And then you look at the false starts, the delay games, those things are unacceptable. And you have faith and you hope that Glenn, as training camp rolls on here, you hopefully see less and less and less. Today was the most definitely in training camp, but that's been the story of this Jets team. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and when I was watching practice today, it's crazy to think that all of these things were happening last year, and with no refs at practice, all of these players are getting away with it. It really is crazy the amount of penalties that were probably happening at practice that players were getting away with under Robert Saleh, and then you go to the games and you had those same issues happening. So now it's time to correct it, and you hope Glenn and his staff can. Glenn also spoke on one of the positives from today's practice, which was the running backs.
I will say this, and I want to make sure this is clear, because I thought our running backs today did a hell of a job. And it's expected. I think Brees is going to I think this year you're going to see a guy that's going to really turn it up a notch. because of what we're going to do, who we're going to be, and because of who he is also. Braden had a couple of reps in there today, which were good. Isaiah did a really good job, and like I expect a number of good things from those guys, and I just want to make sure that those guys get praise for what they did today.
One of the big takeaways there from that quote was what he had to say on Brees, and that's important. Utilizing him in different ways, utilizing him as a receiver, utilizing him, lining him up at times as a wide receiver. Obviously, you know what he can do from a run game perspective, but utilizing him as that do-it-all guy, something that this Jets coaching staff these last couple of years has been too incompetent to realize. And it's a breath of fresh air to hear this coaching staff early on in their time here look at Brees as a player, as a running back who can do a bit of everything. It's a nice change. Aaron Glenn also spoke on what he saw from Justin Fields today. Rough day from a passing perspective, but his legs were fully on display.
What was your thought about the passing game and how Justin performed?
I thought Justin did a really good job. I think we saw exactly what he's going to create when it comes to him using his feet. There are some balls that we have to catch. He threw to some guys, and there's some throws that he got to make too that was out there. So I really want to look at the tape to get a real evaluation of that. But just from the naked eye, I thought he did a pretty good job.
And a couple more things here from Glenn as well. Spoke on Jermaine Johnson, and a little bit of an injury update here. Still expects him here to be ready to roll for week 1.
Jermaine Johnson, I think he posted something that he had been medically cleared.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like the private surgeon, and then now you guys have to do your own thing. But is there a general timetable on when you're expecting him to be back pretty soon? Or?
Well, he's still going through the protocol, getting himself ready to get back. And everybody has their own protocol, and he understands what we're trying to do with him. He's working his ass off to get back, but we want to make sure that we have that player for the long haul. And I've said this before. I mean, week 1, week 2 is all good, but I want to make sure that player is ready for the long haul. It's not just about him playing; it's about who he is as a person and his livelihood also. So we want to make sure that he's all good.
Is the expectation still week 1 for him, or is that
expectation still week 1?
Okay.
I've said this many times, and I think most Jet fans would agree. This is the right approach for Jermaine Johnson. Right, taking it slow, easing him back into things. No need to rush him back for training camp. If he comes back late in training camp, great. If not, you get ready for the regular season. And it's going to be a couple weeks, of course, into the regular season for him to ease back into things. And then once you get to, week 3, maybe more so week 4, that's where you can really start to see him take off. And as Glenn said, you see him produce for the long haul. Aaron Glenn also had one more quote from today's practice that I wanted to play. I thought this was pretty cool, just on him being back with the Jets, hearing the Jets chant today, and how it made him feel.
The first time since I became head coach, today was the first day that it really hit me. And it hit me once I heard the fans give the JETS chant. And I don't know why, but it just hit me. It hit me pretty hard. And, man, I am so thankful. I'm thankful for this organization that gave me a shot. I'm thankful for this organization that gave me my second shot at becoming a coach. I don't know why, fellas, but, man, it hit me, and it hit me pretty hard.
Definitely couple Jets chants today. But it's just things like that really make you makes Glenn such an easy guy to root for. And you just hope that it works out. Can he finally be this guy, be that homegrown Jet in a way, played for the team, of course, comes back now as a coach and has success here. So that was Aaron Glenn. Couple rookies also met the media today. Mason Taylor spoke on his connection and how it's going with Justin Fields.
I think so. I believe so. And all that is time in practice, and you create that trust, being in the right place at the right time. And coming out here on the practice field, there's no better way of doing it. So coming out here with the right mindset of, showing what I can do for this team is really important day to day.
So far, him and Fields have had a strong connection. Fields, of course, we know, right, looks the tight end's way a lot. He has done that so far in training camp, and you look for that to carry through the rest of the summer and, more importantly, into the regular season. Mason Taylor also spoke on just some things as well, some quick hitters here. Some of the advice he got from his dad before camp, staying where his feet are, staying in the present, and also found it pretty cool the Nick Folk reunion now son of Jason Taylor. Mason Taylor, as we know, played with his dad. He spoke on that as well a little bit. AZ Thomas also met the media. Here are his thoughts on the cornerback room so far and the leaders that Brandon Stevens and Sauce Gardner have been for him.
It's a blessing to have two vets, Sauce, Brandon, like those guys. Oh my God! When I first came in, or when like rookies first come in, you kind of get a feel of the room, and those guys welcome me in with open arms, and I feel like that made the transition much smoother. I'm out there, and I actually asked Sauce today, just like when he decides the man turn or zone turn and like off man, does it kind of depend on leverage and stuff like that, and he gave me game right back. And so when you have guys like that, guys that played at a high level, it's a blessing, man. I couldn't thank the Lord. So yeah.
Really excited to see what AZ Thomas can do here, not only just this season, but just in the future. And I talked about this in my player preview episode that I did about him. Just the abilities that he has from a man coverage standpoint, a press man coverage standpoint. This is a guy that under Glenn in this scheme is a scheme fit. And Glenn being a former quarterback, you really get excited for the potential of AZ Thomas and the potential of him in this cornerback room, well, along with the rest of these pieces. So pretty cool to see some of the leadership there on display as he continues his growth as a rookie. And a couple more here. Arian Smith met the media. Here is his thoughts so far on his growth in camp and how training camp is going as we've hit the month of August.
Do you feel like things have slowed down a bit for you as camp has gone on? You've got kind of adjusted a little bit?
Most definitely. Early on in camp is hard. You know, your mind's going 1,000 miles an hour trying to learn the plays, formations, shifts in motion. So, you know, as it comes and, you know, as things just blend and you learn stuff, you play faster. You know what's going on out there for sure.
Mentioning some of the growth, right? Slowing things down. Arian Smith's had a good camp. He also talked about going up against Sauce Gardner yesterday and beating him on the vertical route that, of course, was one of the highlights of practice.
What was that play like for you? It wasn't today, the other day when you went deep on Sauce Gardner. What were your reflections on that play? It was one of the bigger plays.
That's what I'm supposed to do. You know, I don't look at it as like a big play. You know, I feel like that's my job, you know. That's what I'm supposed to do. And, you know, whenever they call me to do it, I'm supposed to make it happen. So just go out there and, you know, do anything I can to help the team. So if they need another one, I'm going to go out there and try to do my best to get another one. So
today was one of those practices, and I think some of it even could have been too, Josh Reynolds limping off and leaving practice early. But today is one of those days just how much the Jets need somebody to start to emerge behind Garrett Wilson, and not sitting here and saying Arian Smith is doing that or is going to do that. But he has been one of the nice surprises so far of training camp. And if he continues to put together a strong summer and he turns into really one of the nice surprises going into the regular season at a position of weakness really for the Jets, who emerges behind Garrett Wilson, it's an important factor for this team. So we'll see his growth continue the rest here. So that'll do it. Another episode in the books. It's incomplete. The New York Jets will have an off tomorrow. They'll be back on the practice field on Monday. So we'll have takeaways from that. You up on week number. Squeeze. A lot more content coming your way. Until next time, JETS. Jets.